Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. I know that you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love life. And I am delighted to welcome my very special guest to the show today, Jeffrey Hayzlett. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Well, great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm eager to talk about your brand new book, but I want to tell the listening audience all about you. Jeffrey Hayzlett is a primetime television host of C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett and Executive Perspectives on C-Suite TV and business radio host of All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett on CBS on-demand radio network Play It. He's a global business celebrity, speaker, best-selling author, and chairman of C-Suite Network, home of the most powerful world network of C-suite leaders. Jeffrey is a well-traveled public speaker, the author of 2 best-selling books, The Mirror Test and Running the Gauntlet, and his third book, which launches in a matter of hours, Think Big, Act Bigger, releases very soon. And Jeffrey, I'm really excited to chat with you. Before the show started, I was just mentioning that I saw you just a matter of weeks ago as a headliner at the National Speaker Association convention in D.C., so it's great to be back in touch with you just a few weeks later.
It is good. And of course, that's a great place to see a lot of thought.
It is.
And hear a lot of thought. There's a lot of people there, and just some great speakers, some people that I just revere and love and I'm inspired by. So
Agreed.
When you're ever looking for speakers, that's what they should be doing, is looking at National Speakers Association.
So true. Good plug. Good plug. So let's talk. This is your third book, right? And the title is Think Big and Act Bigger. So what came about when you decided, okay, I need to write this book? What was the initial thought behind this?
It's amazing because every day I'm reminded of why I wrote this book. And I had a phone call earlier today where I was with a CEO of a company that I'm chairman of, and I was with the head of sales, and we were visiting a CMO of a fairly good-sized company. And it was just so evident that there was nothing we could say, nothing we could do, nothing we could show them that would get them to make the decision, even when they said we met all the qualifications. So and that's what it's all about, is that so many times the biggest failure in business is to make no move at all. And you see that time and time again. And I'm just sick of it. And the fact I'm so tired of it, whether it's in a small business or a big business. I see it all the time. And I'm talking about small thinking and small actions. And so it's just as easy to think big and act bigger. And so many times, it's not the lucky who win, it's the relentless.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do is be the spark for people, be the voice. I'm not telling you too much that's new, but get off your butt and let's make it happen. And that's what this book's all about.
Well, you're speaking my language, and the rewards of being relentless, the subtitle, really resonates with me. You've got to be persistent, you've got to be relentless, and I know I've heard you say this. What is that big, hairy, audacious goal? Make it happen.
Exactly. I mean, how much different, in our lives, we can do things one way or another. Well, I choose to do them another, which means I choose to say, look, why do I have to be limited? Why do I have to do it this way? I don't. And so what's the things that get in my way of doing it? Well, most of the time it's ourselves.
Yeah.
It's, look right in the mirror and you can see that you're the one that's limiting yourself. So what can I do to first make those personal conditions of satisfaction? And so I just recently cut a video for Entrepreneur Magazine, which is my publisher. Actually, I cut 12 videos for him. But in this one particular one which just went live, I was talking about the fact that you just got to make sure you put in your own personal conditions of satisfaction. So what are the things that you want to drive for your life? For me, it's about building wealth for me and my family, because that's how we keep score. I want to be able, in essence, that's the way it is. And then that's real life. And then second, I want to be able to learn new things. I like doing interesting things. And so that's an important thing for me. If it's not interesting and exciting, then I don't want to do it. And then the third thing is I got to have fun.
Yeah.
And if it's not fun, what's the use of doing it? And And that's tough to do. So, and I got to have all three of those things in place, or I don't want to do them.
Well, I love that because, suffering is optional. And I see so many people who just drudge through that career. And the truth is, you don't have to. You have total control over your satisfaction.
Absolutely. So what you have to do is just, hold yourself accountable for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, I was at, again, good examples. I was at the National Speaker Association this summer, and as I was there, I was listening to these two speakers go on and whine and whine and whine about, and this was at $1 million group. These are the highest speakers in the
These are
country.
the big dogs. Yep.
These are the big dogs. So, and I was, keynoting that portion event as well. But then I stuck around and was visiting with all the other speakers that were there. And in that meeting, they were complaining about this certain system that they're using. And I said, well, why don't you switch? Well, the pain to switch. I said, yeah, but you're sitting here whining to me. I said, you know what? A year from now, I said, mark this down, put this on your calendar. A year from now, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be at this meeting again with all the other $1 million speakers. And I'm going to sit down and I bet you're going to be whining about the same damn problem. And I said, so mark it down because I want to put it. And then something went off in my head because I've been dealing with something that and doing business in a certain way. And right then I said, you know what? I'm the same way. I got to stop doing what I'm doing and change what I'm doing and hold myself accountable. And that's when I came back to my office the following week and said, I'm not doing it this way anymore.
Yeah.
And
it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Absolutely. And we do that all the time.
Sure, sure. It's human nature.
Yeah, and I'm just not going to do that. And, and sometimes it might seem like I'm cranky to the team. But no, I didn't sign up for that. And
Good
that's
for
what
you.
and I do that with people. They say, well, you got to go to this meeting. No, I don't. I don't have to go anywhere I don't want to go. No?
Well, I love it. I love it. You're setting up empowerment and you're giving people permission to make decisions based on what they value. So I want to tap your entrepreneurial wisdom because you are a master. What are some questions that people should ask themselves before starting a business? Because my audience, Jeffrey, has a lot of entrepreneurs and I know this will resonate with them.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story because it comes from a question that I asked another person that was working for me. In the book, actually, the very first big story in the book is what I call the Caitlin rule. Now, bear with me. So I'm in New York City one day, and I'm sitting at we have a very open communal space in all of our offices around the country. And so I'm sitting there at my desk in New York City, and this young gal by the name of Caitlin stops by my desk to ask me a question. And so we are about to leave in a few minutes. We've got to go over and meet with a CEO of a company that we're going to help take his company public. And before we have a meeting, we got a presentation that we're going to have at the meeting. So before we go to the meeting, she stops by and says, Jeff, I need to ask you something. I said, what would you like to ask me? She goes, I'd like to know, should we take color copies of the presentation to the meeting? Well, it's a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned to her and I said, well, Caitlin, you're new. You've only been with us for a couple of weeks. So let's imagine that you don't know the real rules. So I'm going to give you the real rules. Here's the rule. You only get to ask me 21 questions. You can ask me about the meaning of life. You can ask me about, where my favorite Italian restaurant is. You can ask me directions. You can ask me, do you think my boyfriend really likes me? You can ask any question you want. You can ask me any question. Is that one of your questions? And she said, I don't think so. I said, well, good answer, because if I have to answer that question, what do I need you for?
Yeah.
And I said to her, I said, look, my job is to hit a mark. I hit a mark on stage. I hit a mark on the television set. I hit a mark in front of the customer or client in order to do the things I do best, which is, in essence, perform or give them advice. I said, I hired you. You're a superstar. You're going to be you're going to have my job. And I only hire superstars. I only hire big dogs because, the company that we were representing that day is called Tallgrass. And Tallgrass is a public relations and social media company that we own. And the slogan for the company is, if you want to run with big dogs, you got to learn to pee in the tall grass. So, and so that's what we are. I said, you're a big dog. And I said, I don't hire big dogs. And I said, that's a stupid question. If I have to answer that question, what do I need you for? I don't need you.
Yeah.
And then I said, by the way, let me ask you another question. I said, we're leaving now in 2 minutes. Do you have time to make the copies? And she goes, no. She goes, no. I said, then don't ever ask me a question like that again.
Yeah. That's a great story, right?
So for entrepreneurs that are listening, read the Caitlin story in my book, Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless. But are you holding your folks just as accountable as they're holding you? Because when things go wrong in the office, like I had something that catastrophically went wrong today. Someone uploaded 200 gigabytes of data,
Ooh.
to our company-wide system, and that which puts it on everybody's laptop, everybody's desktop, and of course just almost shut everybody down. And but that person didn't have to deal with it. I had to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's 8 hours of wasted time me trying to fix the problem. And so I'm going to start holding other people accountable, and that's what I try to do in the business.
Excellent, excellent. So the Caitlin rule. So Jeff, I want to talk to you a little bit about passion, right? Because passion is something we banter about in the entrepreneurial space. Do you think it's good or bad for business, and can we really be successful without it?
Well, I think you certainly can be successful without. There's lots of boring people out there that are very successful, right? There's
Hmm.
lots of boring businesses out there that are very successful, right? Now, I think passion makes it a lot more fun. Passion gives you more drive. Passion gives you more focus. But passion alone is not everything, And sometimes passion can carry the day, but in the end, if you're passionate about a product that sucks, it still sucks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or about a service that you're providing. And if you're not providing the basics, if you're not doing the right things, you can be passionate about it, but still fail. So, and I think that's what you have to keep in mind. Just because you share the passion for it doesn't mean everybody else will share the same amount of passion. So, why it's important, why it's needed, why it will sometimes carry you through the day, because there'll be many dark days in the business. That's just the nature of business. Um, you know, it's the nature of life, quite
Right,
frankly.
right.
So passion is a very important thing to have.
So, Jeffrey, I want to share something that I've heard you say from the stage. And you've said, okay, people call
Oh,
me pig-headed.
this could be dangerous. This part
Yeah,
could be.
it's hard when I'm in your audience, right?
Yeah.
Or you've said people may have called me irrational before, but it doesn't bother you. You've got this tremendous thick skin. In fact, you talked about how it's a good thing for business leaders to be a little pig-headed. And again, reading the book, Think Big, Act Bigger, run with the big dogs, right? And be relentless. So unpack that for me. Talk to me about
Well,
that.
let me give it to you in, like, even as a speaker, because people can understand it. Every speaker I know sees the evaluation forms. Okay,
Hmm.
so they get evaluation forms, and some people really get uptight about it. But because somebody will write something negative or bad or something like that, or they'll write glowing things better than your own mother would write. And they start to believe either of those, and neither are right. you know
Yeah.
Neither are correct. Just like your assessment of me being pig-headed, or your assessment of me being this or that, it's just your assessment. Doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. It's just an assessment. So it's not to the core of who I am. But nonetheless, I want to be pig-headed. I want to be a little bit irrational, because I think that's an important trait that a leader has to have, because you have to be relentless in the way in which you're presenting your ideas, the relentless in terms of the way you drive the quality of the service or business that you have, the relentless in the way in which you drive the vision of where you're going, and relentless in the way in which you're trying to motivate the team to get there. And so let me give you another good example,
Yeah,
if I
please
can.
do.
All right. So a lot of times we have to move people from point A to point B, and point B being a little bit further up on the chart, and we're trying to get them to move and grow. Sometimes, we have to tell them we're going to point C, which is beyond point B, in order to drag everybody to point B.
Well
So,
taken.
and so that's what I mean by the fact that you have to be a little, because that's irrational.
Mm.
When you've been in a meeting, you go, oh my God, he's crazy. Well, you have to be a little bit of that. And some of the best business leaders in the world are a little bit like that, or they're just stubborn. Like, they will not tolerate this. They will not tolerate, people working outside the values of the company. All those little things. And that's what I'm talking about is, even when the example I gave with the speakers, what I always tell everybody is you got to take the bottom 10%, throw that away, the top 10%, throw that away. And what you got is in the middle. That's what you got. Right.
Exactly. Because if you're going to read the good, you can't read the good reviews or the bad reviews, right?
Yeah. And I,
As we
and I
say in
can't,
the performance world.
yeah. And I can't build a business on just nothing but the good, and a
Yeah.
business on nothing but the bad, because I won't get to the majority of the people that are really driving what we're doing.
So you're really an iconic leader, and you talk about this in the book, and I love it. You say it's imperative for leaders to focus and cut out the noise. So
Yep.
how do you do that?
Well, you got to know what, again, getting back on this, I tell people this conditions of satisfaction. What are your promises to the customer? What are your promises to the shareholders? What are your promises to your family? Your promise to your whatever spiritual being you're going to, or and your promises to your friends. All those things, the conditions of satisfaction. So knowing what's important for you and knowing what's important for the business, very critical. Very critical.
So let's stick with leadership, and you talk about a servant mentality and being a servant leader to be a better leader. How does that play out for you with your
Well,
teams? Because you've
yeah,
got so many hats that you wear as a leader.
yeah, but I have this thing where I say clean the bathroom. In our New York office, I clean the bathroom. That's one of my jobs. So where I'm literally, and so that way, if I'm doing that, nobody else can complain when I ask, take turns taking out trash, or take turns, picking up the conference room, or washing off the conference room board, because I think that's kind of an important kind of thing for businesses to do a little bit of that themselves, because it reminds you of where you came from, and reminds you of taking care of the things that are important to us and around us, and it's not beneath you.
Yeah.
And I've just always known that when I serve other people, I feel really good about it. When I go and get things for my wife, or like for instance, on our we go anywhere, we travel, she never carries a bag. you know, and and even when the children were little, they always had to carry their mother's bag. They'd carry their bag and carry that. Like you see some of these moms carrying all their kids' coats. I
Right.
can't stand that. I don't like that. You carry your mother's coat. But not that that's her position or her role, but doesn't it makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's a way
You
to
know,
honor her.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And but honor anyone. So
Exactly.
if I can get you things, if I can do things for you, if I can be a servant to you in business, how much more valuable does that make me? you know so that's the way I look at it, from the way in which we do it. And if we take that mentality, you got something I want, which is money. And
Hmm.
so what in the best way I can remember to get it in church is to pass the bucket,
Yeah.
pass the plate. So what I want to do is be a servant to you as much as possible.
So, Jeffrey, one of my favorite chapters in the book is chapter 9, Find a Bigger Pond. Always ask what's next. So,
Yeah.
walk us through that. And then I want to ask you, what's next?
Well, I grew up in South Dakota, and that's where I hail from. I'm from a place most people only know as a point on a map. Never been there. Most people never been there. Or if been there, they always say, "Hey, you're the second person I ever knew from South Dakota." And I said, "Well, who's the first?" And then I know who it is. So I mean, that's the way it is. And so I learned very early that I could be a big dog in a small pond. I could be a big fish in a small pond, and I did really well in South Dakota. But then I thought, well, geez, I can go do this in, I don't know, Iowa. I can go do this in Nebraska. I can go do this in Missouri. I can go. You know what? I can go do this in New York. You know what? I can go do this in India.
Yeah.
And I found out that that I some of those same principles work there, and I could learn the nuances, and I could learn to add more zeros to the numbers. And it wasn't long after I realized that I moved from running a small business to running a business of 17 billion. So and there's no difference in the running of those businesses. It's just I decided to go swimming in a bigger pond.
Do you get hungrier, for professional success and achievement? I no, really, because
Yeah.
I liken myself, I'm an overachiever, right? So sometimes it's really hard to feel satisfied because there's always something more.
Well, I think that's it, but I do the same thing with a lemonade stand. So, meaning I go sell a lemonade stand, but I'm going to beat the kid across the
Yeah.
street. So I think that's the nature of it. No matter what it is you're doing, you're either competitive or you're not. You're either, a certain type of personality or not. And regardless of whether I mean, just like when you're playing your kids a game, board game, or your family a board game, I don't like to lose.
Yeah, look out.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to whoop up on you. So, or even, puzzles, we do all that with the puzzles in the family. We're big gamers in our family, and that way. And so I don't know that, it's an insatiable thing. It's just a way of life. And I think that's just part of what I live.
Little healthy competition never hurt
Yeah.
anybody. So
Well, and,
you,
and by the way, I want to add that too. The part of the book is, go find an enemy. The bigger, the better.
yes,
I just
yes.
recently wrote a big column for, I think it was Entrepreneur Opinion Post, and that's been shared. I mean, I've seen thousands and thousands of copies of it floating around, tweets floating around about it, retweeting it, which is awesome. But and I talked about, one of the best things you can do is go find an enemy and find the biggest, baddest, you know. I swear, but I don't want to offend you.
Oh
But
no, go ahead. It's all good.
MNF, son of a bitch and enemy you can,
Yep.
because that's what you want. The bigger the enemy, the badder the enemy, the better you are, is the way I think, because you get up to that game. And sometimes there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startups. They'll come to me for funding or come to me for advice or serve on their board, and they'll tell me, well, we don't have any competitors. And I said, well, then get out, because I don't.
Yeah.
If you have no competitors, then you're not in a market that's worth doing. Then that means there's no value to what you're doing in essence, because you don't have somebody. But if you tell me there's a big enemy and here's how you can exploit it, whoa, now you got my interest.
Right. And I think some companies become complacent. Some leaders become complacent. They rest on their laurels. And I think you've got to constantly have that drive.
Yep, we all do that. Fran Tarkenton, who I love, and Fran once said, if you haven't laid awake at night wondering whether you're going to make payroll the next day, then you haven't lived. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we live on the edge. I don't think you have to live that far on the edge. And I've certainly been on the edge like that. I'll be there on the edge again, because that's the nature of who I am. I'm always gambling things, always pushing things. I try to learn from those successes and some of those failures as much as possible. The key is that you're always going to be on the edge, but just try to make it as safe as possible. There's a better way.
Jeffrey, what's next for you? Because there's always something bigger and better, right? And you're a big thinker. So are you planning your next steps, or are you going to enjoy the book ride for a while?
Well, the book ride's a big one. I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing about nine. I think my son Tyler runs the speaking book and the TV business for us, and I asked him the other day, because I don't always get to see what the schedules are, but I know we've booked about 98 speeches in the next 3 to 4 months, just pushing the book. Not to mention, I know that the team did tell me we have over 68 media interviews already lined up, and I know they're working on them every day. So there'll be literally hundreds of interviews that we'll do. They're booking them at 10 o'clock at night just so I can do them. And in some cases, like with radio tours, I'm up at 4 a.m., doing radio
Yeah.
tours, just part of the nature, especially if I'm calling East Coast from West Coast. So we're doing a lot of that. But the next big things is just doing more of what I like to do. We've got the TV shows are going well with our executive perspective shows. We're going to be putting C-Suite TV, the C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett on C-Suite TV. We took that off of Bloomberg. That's off of Bloomberg, so we're taking that to the bank. And then we're producing more shows. I talked to Brian Elliott today, who does Behind the Brand for us. He's producing even more shows. He's a prolific television producer and interviewer, does a great job. And then we're adding more and more shows. We were on the phone today negotiating with a pretty major player, a new show, which I'm pretty excited about, and then with another little twist to it. So we'll see how that goes. So it's just fun creating things, and that's a big part of the things I'm doing. I got a couple of websites, lifestyle web brands that we're going to bring with that I don't want to give away yet, but they're going to be really fun. And
Good
even if they,
stuff.
yeah, and I hope they make a lot of money. And even if they don't, they're still going to be really fun. So, things like that. So I'm having fun. And then I got a couple businesses where we're not doing as well with it, but I'm trying to figure out how to do well with it. That I just know there's a pony in there somewhere, and I keep
Yeah.
looking for it. And so, you
Good
know,
for you.
yeah, I just hope I don't. I hope I'm not letting my passion over overshadow the reality of what it really is, and just like
Well,
everybody else.
I have every confidence that you will continue to be relentless, and I'm impressed and grateful as someone who has benefited from your wisdom. And you are incredibly active. You have a great team that manages your social media, and I know I follow you on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I would encourage our listeners. But let's talk about how we can buy the book.
Oh, well, just look it up. You can go anywhere.
It's
You go to
everywhere.
yeah, you
Yeah.
go Barnes and Noble. It's on, it's electronics. You get a Nook. You can get a Kindle. You can get an iBook. They're all
Every
available.
airport around the world, which I
Every
love.
airport. It's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing more in airports than we actually see in some of the bookstores because a lot of our population. Oh, I gotta tell you, one of the biggest surprises that's been so far is the pre-orders on the book were mostly women. We had
Yeah.
57% of the people buying the book were women,
Okay,
and
well, go girls. I'm
I
impressed. My
I was
people. Good.
impressed. We
I'm
were
very
impressed.
impressed.
It was like we were just blown away by that because a lot of the audience that I typically have served has been the C-suite audience. Now, although most of my team is mostly women, the professionals that surround me that do everything for me, tell me what to do and how to do it, they're all women. And but I was surprised. But typically we see the C-suite made up more of men, so I was surprised to see that. But that's exciting news for
It's
us.
very exciting. And I think this message, I know that this message will resonate with women. So I'm excited for you. And I've gotten a big kick out of your live Facebook video too. That's been great fun. So thank you for going into that territory and Periscope, which I'm just learning. So you're my tutor
Well,
in Periscope.
I haven't been doing as well on Periscope because I get it, but it's not as many of your fan base.
Right,
I like to
right.
talk to the people that like to talk to us as much as possible. And
I hear you. I
yeah,
hear you. Well, Jeffrey Hayzlett, congratulations on Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless. It's a great book. I've benefited from the galley copy, and I encourage all of our listeners to get out there and buy the book in just a few days. And I wish you continued success.
well, thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for tuning into your working life today, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.